Chaitanya sir, you can unmute. Chaitanya sir, you can unmute and start speaking.
Okay. A very good morning to all of you. It's been a very long time since I have attended a dialogue at the Indore circle. I hope I'm audible. Please tell me immediately, because then I'll keep my
You are
microphone
audible, sir.
nearer.
Audible,
Okay.
no problem. But a bit loud, people.
Okay. Okay. Is it loud enough now?
Yeah, it is more than enough.
Okay. When Sushil Jain asked me to speak on a topic, I told him to suggest a topic, and then he left it to me. So I thought I should speak about this, whether there is anything very unique about what Krishnaji taught for more than 60 years, what he wrote, the way he interacted, the manner, the style, the form, the content of his talks. Was it something different that no other teacher in the past had done? Or it was in some way in continuation with what had already been done, something which was a part of the mainstream tradition or the breakaway tradition. I pondered a little, and I feel that in some places, I really feel that the way he talks, even though you find an echo of what he says in ancient books, in Buddhist literature, in the Upanishads, in Zen Buddhism, in what Adi Shankaracharya said, in what even existentialists said. There was something unique. Krishnaji did both. He talks about the aspect of his life and teachings which were very unique, very special, very different. And at the same time, he says that what he has
Chaitanya
experienced.
sir, your voice is not clear.
What do I do? If you let me experiment with one thing, let me switch off the video and then see if the voice is clear. Now
become
check.
invisible, then sound will come.
Now, is it clearer now?
Yeah.
Is the voice clearer now?
Okay.
Okay, is it better?
Yes, better.
Okay. So, I hope what I said so far was audible, right? I don't have to repeat what I said already.
Please repeat, sir. Please repeat.
Oh, God.
You have to repeat.
Okay. What I was saying is when I was asked by Sushil Jainji to speak on Krishnaji's teachings, I told him I asked him if he could suggest a topic. And when he said, he left it to me. And I thought I should speak about this, whether Krishnaji's teachings, not just the style, but the content, the style, the form, the manner in which he presented, was there something very unique about it, or was it a modified form of what has already been taught by ancient teachers belonging to different religious traditions? When I thought about it, I could see that there are elements of both. You can find an echo of what Krishnaji says in ancient scriptures, Buddhist books, the Upanishads, in Zen Buddhism, in what Adi Shankaracharya said, in what even existentialists said, even in what some modern philosophers have said. But then there are aspects of the teachings in which Krishnaji himself has emphasized this uniqueness. I would like to focus basically on three aspects. One is a statement that he gave on February 7, 1986, just 10 days before he passed away. One was a speech that he gave in August 1929 when he disbanded the organization called the Order of the Star in the East, and a statement that he wrote about 60 years later, 50 years later, sorry, 1980, which is known as the core of the teachings. On the basis of these three, I would like to talk about both. The part that seems very unique, where it seems that Krishnaji's teachings are like the song of a bird, of a river that begins its journey, her journey from the peak of a snow-clad mountain, flows through the plains and mingles with the ocean, something very natural. You just have to observe. There's no need to exercise your intellectual muscles to understand, to grasp, nothing unintelligible about it. Just listen, observe. But there is a part which may seem obscure, where he himself says, studied the teachings as a Buddhist would study the teaching of the Buddha. I'm quoting him. And as a doctor studies medicine. The uniqueness is, as I said, is also in his simplicity. He's so simple and seems so ordinary that in itself is an extraordinary thing. The way he steers clear of all philosophical jargon, obscure words, difficult explanations, avoiding any attempt to mesmerize people with his personality, and so on. I said I would like to read out the statement that he gave in 86, just 10 days before he passed away, which makes me feel that there was something extraordinarily unique, special about this phenomenon called Krishnamurti. And I quote him, I was telling them this morning, referring to some people who were around him at that time. I was telling them this morning, for 70 years, that super energy, no, that immense energy, immense intelligence has been using this body. I don't think people realize that tremendous energy and intelligence. What tremendous energy and intelligence went through this body. There is 12-cylinder engine, and for 70 years, it was a pretty long time. and the body can't stand anymore. Nobody, unless the body has been prepared very carefully, protected, and so on. Nobody can understand what went through this body. Nobody. Don't anybody pretend. Nobody. I know they don't. I repeat, sorry, nobody amongst us or the public know what went on. I know they don't. And now, after 70 years, it has come to an end. Not that intelligence and energy, it's somewhat here every day, and especially at night. And after 70 years, the body can't stand it, can't stand anymore. It can't. The Indians have a lot of damned superstitions about this, that you will and the body goes and all that kind of nonsense. You won't find another body like this, or that supreme intelligence operating in a body for many hundred years. You won't see it again. When he goes, it goes. There is no consciousness left behind of that consciousness and that state. That's all. They will all pretend or try to imagine they can get into touch with that. Perhaps they will somehow if they live the teachings. But nobody has done it. Nobody. And so that's that. Unquote. Now I get a feeling when I read this that is he indicating that he was a kind of biological freak, that his body itself was like prepared in a way that could become a medium for that supreme intelligence, for that super energy that passed through it? Was he aware of it all the time, but was not trying to disclose, was trying to reveal it, lest people are misled or are mesmerized or feel that he's talking about something very obscure, which is beyond their comprehension? But this emphasis on the body, on the energy that passed through it, it makes me feel that there was something which is beyond my comprehension, something which he tried to make very simple for people so that they could understand it. But there was something very unique about the personality, if he had any or no personality, and the way in which he tried to explain, presenting his insights to people across the globe for 60 or 60 plus years, traveling, going everywhere except the places where freedom of expression was banned. He was more revolutionary than the people who had put a ban on such talks. The fearlessness with which he spoke. The communists even thought he was a communist, and some people spoke with, some communists say, with all the seriousness of a person who has not read him at all, that he was a non-religious mystic, just giving him some name so that it becomes easier to understand. But the arguments he had even with communists, the way he found fault with any effort to bring change in the outer structure, because it doesn't change the inner self-centered nature of man. The way he questioned the totalitarian ways. He had an argument in a public meeting with a communist leader, and he said, "What will you do if I don't listen to you?" It happened in Sri Lanka, I think in Jaffna, perhaps. And he said, the communist leader, who was a very prominent political figure and led the opposition party in the country, he said, "We would try to persuade you, sir." And he said, "What if I'm not persuaded?" He said, "We would try to force you to listen, coerce you into listening." He said, "What if I am not prepared? I still say no." He said, "We would put you behind bars. We would torture. We would try to put more pressure." He said, "But still I say no." He said, "Then we would liquidate you, finish you off." And Krishnaji said, "I am that man." So even more, I mean, I think one of the greatest iconoclasts that were ever born, more revolutionary than the so-called revolutionaries themselves. He spoke against everything that communists speak against: social injustice, discrimination, inequitable distribution of wealth and income, poverty, squalor, everything, but still refused to hobnob with them. The American Communist Party even said, "Join us, sir, because you speak like a communist." He said, "No, sir, I don't join any organization." Now, again, maybe the same thing, but refusal to join an organization is a very important aspect of the uniqueness. I mean, to the extent he was so careful, so particular about not being put into any box, any category, that when somebody said, "Sir, are you a vegetarian?" He said, I don't eat meat, but I'm not a vegetarian." What did he mean? He said, "Don't put me in that category." Perhaps as a rationalist, he says somewhere else that as far as possible, it's better to stick to a vegetarian diet. But if it's not available, if you are interested in your survival, then do what you want to do. So something very unique, not just about the style, but about the content. Now, Krishnaji, he says in his 1929 speech that truth will not come down. An individual has to reach the mountaintop. The mountaintop will not come down to make itself available. Perhaps we as individuals have to make ourselves available to that life force. So, and he did it, he never, something very peculiar I find in many a spiritual teacher, so-called spiritual teacher, that they play, it seems they are playing to the gallery. They want to entertain people. They want to make them laugh. Maybe they do it because they want to have become popular, attract more people. They're more crowd pullers or indulge in pep talking. Krishnaji never did it. He said, "Sir, please don't laugh. I'm not an entertainer. Don't clap. This is something very serious." So this is also something which I find very interesting. No stories, anecdotes, even those jokes that he cracked were very serious. Often I find them very serious. To the extent that even people said he was too intellectual, too serious, very gloomy, very grim faced. And he said, no, sir. And he only caters to the elites, to the creamy layer of society, to some people, very few people who speak English and understand English, who are professors and academicians and scientists and so on. He's not a teacher for the common masses. And again, he emphasizes that no, it's not so. The reason why people say this is because the teachings. He never said my teachings. That's also interesting. The teachings call for profound seriousness, very deep seriousness. And that's the reason why I'm not popular. And popularity is the last thing I want. So if people are not serious, they're looking for entertainment, then of course they will say all kinds of things. So that's one thing that again makes me feel that something very unique about the teachings. The denial of authority, the extent, the fierce opposition, staunch opinions against all authority. I mean, people often say he's an anarchist, like not just religious authority, because in the realm of religion, authority has always played a very important role. The authority of the book. You can't say anything against the holy book. They will kill you. And now this has become applicable not just to one religion, but even to the so-called religions, the religions that have, they are reputed to be very liberal, very generous. Authority of the teacher. Have faith. He who follows me walks not in darkness. And sarva dharmana parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. I will redeem you. I will take care of all your pain, all your conflicts, all your sufferings. So don't worry. So the faith in the teacher, in what people believe to be a representative of a divine representative of God, implicit faith in him or her. Krishnaji says the teachings are important, not my teachings. The teachings are important, and don't accept any authority, especially mine, including mine. Throw the teacher overboard. Nobody has said, as far as I know. They say, come wash my feet, drink the water. That's the quickest way to salvation. And this actually happens. You can't join a religious organization, there are many of them, and try leaving them. See what happens. So the person says, I as a teacher am not important. What I say is important, which is the teachings. And he then goes further, says the teachings are not important. It's your life that is important. There are no teachings to explore, just your life. And don't just listen to the words that I use. I am addressing the unconscious mind. So the medium in the teacher is being denied. The teachings need to be questioned. The language in which the teachings are expressed, the medium, that is to be questioned or even denied. Is Krishnaji saying that get in touch with that empty space from where I speak? Get in touch with the silence from where my words come. Don't attach importance to me as an individual, to what I say, to how I say. Can you be in touch? Is he inviting us to get in touch with that space? He has said it elsewhere. When somebody, I think one of his biographers, when she asked him, so how do you respond? How do you receive a question? And he says, you beat a drum, produces a sound. Where does the sound come from? The sound comes from the hollowness, from the emptiness of the drum. When the drum is in right tension and you beat it, you hear a sound. This is the sound of emptiness. Is he saying the same thing about the teaching? Or we just listen to what he says, the words, the noise of the words, and are not able to get in touch with the space behind the words. Just saying, this is unique. Refusing to be a guru in a world where people are, there's a cutthroat competition to become a guru, spiritual guru. Almost a cutthroat. Everybody wants to be a guru, regardless of whether he or she has anything to say, anything meaningful to say or not. Now, I recall a conversation between Ma Anandamayi and Krishnaji, and she tells him, holding his hand, that, sir, you are a guru of all gurus. You are a Mahaguru. Why do you refuse to accept this? And he says, because I don't want to be a crutch. Now, most teachers want you to depend on them. They want you to depend on them as long as they live, and even after their death, they want you to continue with your dependence on them, complete psychological dependence. Don't ask any questions, because if you ask question, it will destroy your soul. Sanshayatma vinashyati. Sanshaya is never encouraged. Skepticism is never encouraged. Now this fellow is saying that I'm not a guru because I don't want to become a drug. I don't want you to depend on me. That's something rare. The Buddha is said, I mean, the Buddha did say, Attadipo bhava, be a light unto yourself. Krishnaji says, think for yourself. Don't depend, don't look to me, don't ask me, don't tell me what to do, just do it. So there is that uniqueness. Of course, other teachers, especially the Buddha, did emphasize this aspect that one should be a light unto oneself and not depend on the teacher, on the Buddha, on an enlightened person for answer. I think Krishnamurti is emphasizing more on his absence than on his presence. Perhaps he thinks that a teacher should be absent. He should guide through his absence. His presence is an obstacle. His presence becomes a wall between the individual and life. Perhaps he wants to awaken in us an intelligence that gives us clarity, strength, insight to experience life firsthand, to allow life to live through us and not stand between life and me as a teacher and explain. Because that truth about which he's talking is available, perhaps in his opinion, to each one of us. We are not making ourselves available to it. And so he keeps on telling that I am not important. My presence is not important. The teachings are not mine. I am just like a telephone. Receive the message and hang up. So some of the unique things. I said in the beginning, I don't know how time flies. It's already 11:37. I don't know. Sushilji, do I have time? I wanted to speak briefly about one aspect.
You have got plenty of time, as much
Thank
as
you.
you can.
Oh,
As
God.
long as you are not appearing, absence is love. If
Which
when
means,
absence is not felt, love is complete. Please go ahead.
which means if I have to stop, I have to appear, right?
Yeah, definitely. Absence,
I said,
when absence is not felt, love is complete.
thank you, sir. I said that consistency is a very important thing. Krishnaji, when he gives his 1929 August 3 speech, when he decides to bid farewell to his old organization, where the theosophists feel that the second coming has actually failed. The vehicle of Lord Maitreya has let us down, and so on. Krishnaji says almost the same thing that he says 50 years later when Mary Lutyens tells him to summarize the teachings in a very few words. Very surprising. 60 years, the man who is constantly questioning not only others, but himself also. Once somebody said, sir, you are heavily conditioned. Actually, there was a Buddhist Lama from Germany, I believe, Lama Anagarika Govinda. He said Krishnaji is heavily conditioned. But Krishnaji doesn't mention his name, but he said somebody said that I am conditioned. And I took several days to examine this. So somebody who is constantly questioning not only others, but his own words, his own insights, yet he remains consistent for 70 years of his life, saying the same thing. The man who says a confident man is a dead human being, a consistent thinker is a stupid person because he has never looked at his thoughts. He never examines his thoughts, but he is consistent. So just see if you read both, I do not have, I think, so much time that I can go through both the core of the teachings and the truth is a pathless land speeches. But a few words from both, just to show how consistent. He says, and I quote, truth is a pathless land and you cannot approach it by any path whatsoever, by any religion, by any sect. That is my point of view and I adhere to that absolutely and unconditionally. Absolute and unconditional adherence to the statement that truth is a pathless land. And you cannot approach it through anything. Now, through anything includes a lot. Effort is denied, practices are denied, dependence on authority is not acceptable, dependence on the book, the sanctity of the book, sacredness, so-called sacredness of the book is not acceptable. If one goes deeper, effort and time is not acceptable. You can't say you can do it tomorrow because it doesn't happen tomorrow. So denial to an extent that whatever we have been taught to do in the sphere of religion, of spiritual growth is denied. There is no such thing as spiritual inner improvement. You can't become better tomorrow. You can't turn violence into non-violence. You can't do it neither today nor tomorrow. So all these psychological techniques, substitution, sublimation, they are out of the question in Krishnamurti's scheme of things. Now, again, in that 1929 speech, why do you go around talking? And he says, continually speaking, why do you go around talking? A reporter asks him. He says, I quote, I will tell you that for what reason I do it. Not because I desire a following, not because I desire a special group of special disciples. I have no disciples, no apostles, either on earth or in the realm of spirituality. Nor is it the lure of money, nor the desire to live a comfortable life which attracts me. I unquote. Then the reporter says, what will you do afterwards? How will you live? You will have no following. People will no longer listen to you. And Krishnamurti says, and I quote, if there are only 5 people who will listen, I will live. Who will live? Who have their faces turned towards eternity, it will be sufficient. What he is looking for is authentic, genuine search, authentic seriousness, not just people seeking superficial solutions, palliatives, just some painkillers to relieve themselves of. You see, this is what is happening, which is very tragic in my opinion, that youngsters, people of all ages have all kinds of problems. And then some of them, most of us end up blaming others for the situations we are in, the negative, the toxicity we experience in life. And the very few who are serious enough to go a little further, there's a queue of so-called spiritual gurus, and they get trapped there. So they never reach the purity of Krishnaji's teachings. And that's why it has become very important, perhaps, to actually question, doubt, and keep arguing with people who claim to have a profound spiritual insight, but are actually just they have commercialized this. They have only they are just fleecing people. just fleecing people, the gullible masses. I'm sorry, I feel like using very harsh words against them, because it is because of them that they have not reached this purity of Krishnaji's teachings. They can't. They can't, because they don't have the patience. They have given them the path. They said there's a path to the ending of all this. You can come out of it, follow this, do it for 7 days, do this practice for 15 days, disappear into a dark room, switch off your mobile, and all your pain, all your suffering will just come to an end. I mean, all this is, I mean, he says this is all childish. And it is childish for one who has tried all this, one who has gone through this, one who has really allowed life to stare him in the face, knows that these things don't work. So he says just 5 people are enough if they have their faces turned towards eternity. I mean, who are actually not looking for shortcuts, for palliatives, but they are actually serious in finding something very profound. Now, this he said in 1929, disbanding a huge organization, giving up 5,000 acres of land and so on. All this you all must be knowing. And all the time saying, I'm not being harsh. Please don't think I'm being rude to you. I'm just saying because I've been pondering over this for the last 2 years, and now I have come to this understanding that no organization, effort, time can lead you to truth. Then in 1980, 50 years later, when he's asked by the biographer, Mary Lutyens, this time, and he says this, just listen, only the language has changed a little. There is more emphasis on observation, on the futility of psychological techniques here. I think man cannot, he says, and I quote, again, this begins with the same statement. Truth is a pathless land, and man cannot come to it through any organization, through any creed, through any dogma, priest, or ritual, not through any philosophical knowledge or psychological technique. He has to find it through the mirror of relationship, through the understanding of the contents of his own mind, through observation and not through intellectual analysis or introspective dissection. Again, denial of all that has been considered very important in this inner journey. So here is a man who comes with a completely non-traditional, non-dogmatic, non-ritualistic approach to life. There is immense beauty in this. No rituals are needed because it's constantly, you can't step into the same river twice. Everyday life presents itself with a new face, new challenges, new crises. And there's nothing, the old formulas don't work. You can't apply the old techniques to the same, to new life. And it's true. There's a joke about it. They say that each time I have been able to define life, they change the meaning. So it doesn't work. So, and then this is beautiful. In the second paragraph of this core of the teaching, he says, man has built in himself images as a fence of security, religious, political, personal, and these manifest as symbols, ideas, beliefs. The burden of these images dominates man's thinking, his relationships, and his daily life. These images are the causes of our problems, for they divide man from man. And then he talks about individuality also, which is very popular. Individualism. I am important as an individual. I am the center of the universe. My happiness matters. I must express my individuality, myself. He says you are not an individual because the very word individual means undivided. As long as you are divided, you are not an individual. It is indivisible. If you are not indivisible, you are not individual. There is so much truth in this. Actually, when we say we are individual, we are only saying that we are under the influence of something that doesn't exist in my immediate surroundings. And I'm under the influence of some other things which is not being followed by people uh, in whose vicinity I live and function and move. I have become new. There's something new that has happened to me. And now, as an individual who has experienced a new influence, who has come under a new influence, wants to express his so-called individuality. That's what we mean by this individuality. Now he questions that too. And another very important thing, which I doubt if anybody else has said, that freedom is not something to be acquired at the end of your journey. It lies at the very beginning of the journey. So, it is like saying in order to become free, you have to start with freedom. So again, there's a denial of path technique, because if there's a journey where you have to move from A to B, where one is not free today and one will become free tomorrow, which means time, distance, effort, and all that. So all that is denied with one stroke, that it is not at the end of your evolutionary cycle. It lies at the first step itself. And I think it was in 1985, Mumbai, just a year before his death. And I think that very one sentence, doesn't it sum up whatever he said when he says, benediction is where you are. It's not somewhere else. It's not in the distant mountains in solitude where you have to go and spend your time with a spiritual guru and meditate for years and do all kinds of yoga and practices. So there's a very strong, staunch denial of these traditional approaches. Again, I'm not contradicting myself. I just want to say that one person that Krishnaji referred to, if he referred to anybody at all in all his talks and writings, it was the Buddha. I just wanted to share a very interesting episode from his life, which is part of a very poetic biography written by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Vietnamese monk now living in France. He says that once there was a group of people arguing over what the Buddha had said and what he had not said. And it was during Buddha's time. And they were constantly debating, they were having altercations, a very heated discussion over what he said, over interpretation of what he said and what he didn't. And the Buddha just happened to pass them by, and he said, he stopped for a while, listened to them, and said, listen, sirs, you are arguing over what I have said and what I have not said. Actually, I have never said anything. I have never uttered a word. Krishnaji's description of the biological aspect of enlightenment is also something which I find very unique. When he talks about mutation in the cells of the brain itself as a result of enlightenment, which happens because of insight, a flash of insight. I don't see a parallel anywhere else where somebody is talking about what happens to the body, to the brain. That's also something which I personally find is very enlightening. That I mean, the way he delves into human consciousness, the the profound depths to which he goes, going to the very source of thought, describing thought as a response of memory, changing, saying thought is matter, and when Bohm says no, it is not matter, it's a material process, he immediately changes, constantly learning, unlearning, relearning. He's a living example of that, never sticking to what he says as the final truth. Though the fact is that he did say in the beginning that he was not part, he was the whole. He had realized, he had experienced the ultimate truth, something to that effect, not exactly the same words. When he says, you are the world, he says, for me, it's a fact, it's not an opinion, which means I am the world. That's what he says. Now, again, something very unique I find this, with so much confidence, so much clarity, not repeating it ad nauseum at all the public meetings that I have become enlightened and so on, but just hinting sometimes very hesitantly, in a very humble way, that I am speaking from that position of a person who has crossed the river, is now standing on the other shore, looking at the river of sorrow, people trying to swim across, people getting drowned, people never even stepping into the river, not even examining what sorrow is, what life is. And I'm here standing on the other shore. And that's why, in spite of the fact that he knew, he could see very clearly that nobody was able to understand, he went on and on for 70 years, kept talking about his insights, kept sharing whatever he wanted to share with affectionate indifference, if I may use that phrase, maintaining a distance so that the inability of the people to understand him doesn't affect him, with her upeksha. Will indifference be the right translation for upeksha? The Buddha called it upekha. And he said that this is one of the important traits of true friendship, that there is compassion in it, karuna, there is friendship in it, friendship, maitri or metta as he called it. There is cheerfulness, mudita, and there is upekha, which means regardless of whether people understand it or not, regardless of whether one agrees with him or not, regardless of whether even people listen to him or not, regardless of what will happen to the teachings after he's gone. He says the only purpose of the body is to talk. If I cannot talk, I will cease to exist. Everything about him was unique, even though one may find echoes of what he says in any religion, any other teacher's teachings. He was extraordinary. Not that we should put him on a pedestal and start worshipping him, because that is what we do to ordinary people. We cannot even do that to him. So in that sense, he was unique. With this, sirs, thanks for your patient hearing. Thanks for your attention, for the attention you paid. I want to end here. Thanks a lot.
Please appear.
Thanks.
Please appear on the screen. Thank you very much, Chaitanya. It was love, love, love only. Thank you very much. And I request Dr. Rao to comment on this. Dr. Rao, please unmute and say. And then Harshad Parekh.
नमस्कार नागर जी आपने कुछ सुना है आपको देखा है आपका दर्शन We are very happy this morning. The prasad was profound. Yes, I do say this. It's just not a compliment out of, but this as it says, Sushil just said out of love. There's nothing to add or nothing to compound to what you said about his uniqueness. Although we are not saying it because we want to compare and feel greater because we have been followers of Hare Krishnamurti. Not at all. It is just stating the fact and what is. I used to wonder, what is the, to begin with, you have to have freedom. Mentioned it about the end of the talk. And I remember an occasion when he meets Gandhiji and the dialogue doesn't move because the Gandhiji says, I can't keep away faith. Let us talk. No, sir, you have to keep away everything if you want to begin. He said no. So there was no conversation at all with him. But this is very difficult man, in fact, Krishnaji was. He's not a man who back shoulder, slap on your shoulder and say, great. No. Not that he won't say that also. But then as Naga said, he didn't want people. He didn't want crowds. He didn't want a cult around him. I'm afraid a lot of people want this for preachers. He was very afraid of people who listen to him, that they don't aid that process coming into operation and have him as a cult figure. So very, very important. The last question that somebody asked, a profound monk in Benares, what will happen to your teaching? As Nagar said, it will depend on you. If you live it every day, the teaching is there, will stand ages. But if you don't live it and make a statue out of it and put it in a temple, it's gone. If you make a book and worship it, it's gone. So that really gives you a lot about Krishnaji, what he thought himself, what he thought of the teaching, what he thought of life and its problems, how it is not one river solidly in a place, but as Naga said, moving, never meet the river again. That's every day. I don't want to add anything except to say I was extremely happy that you invited Naga to say something about the uniqueness, because Naga is somebody who has gone into it vastly and has lived with it and lived in it, and has been teaching teachers to be better teachers, and has been in Banaras, another nice place, a center of Krishnamurti teachings. And so I would like rather some time given to a lot of people who may have questions. But I agree with every word, not that it means anything, of what Nagarji said. And his Mahavakyas are worth repeating. Any division is conflict. And Naga said and repeated, you or the world. Very difficult to understand, but when you really sit and understand every word and the spaces between, it's really so. We are one world, one word. We are all together. There is an oneness in us which we don't even see. We keep on fighting. Thank you, Nagar Sahib. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much,
And I'm
Dr.
glad.
Rao. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Harshad Parekh, please unmute and say.
Yes. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Chaitanya. It was very interesting to listen what you said. You have said a lot. I consider Krishnamurti as the world teacher because he went to many countries in the world. So in that sense, other teachers like Buddha went only in a small part of India. So Krishnamurti is a world teacher because he talked with so many people in many different countries. I agree with Krishnaji that the world is not the thing, but yet Krishnaji spoke so many words and he was trying to explain in a many different ways. And I think what he wanted is that while listening to him or by reading the book, something begin to happen, not what thinking about what he was saying and then trying to understand. That is not the way. And I myself, when I did not know who was Krishnamurti, but when I read the book, Krishnamurti book, and I felt that yes, I can see in myself what he says is true. And then my life began to change at a deeper level. So I agree again with Krishnaji that the teacher is not important, but the teaching, because there is a power, there is something behind the words, what he is saying, and only it depends on the reader or the listener whether he or she can touch the essence of what Krishnamurti was saying. And once it is seen very clearly, then I feel that one doesn't need to read anything more. No need to listen to even Krishnamurti because one can read the book of one's own life as it is being written. So that is what he meant by freedom at the beginning. It means the ability to see clearly whether the person who is saying something, is it really true or false, seeing it very quickly. So, and about the man, Krishnamurti, and what was happening in his body, which we don't know. And we cannot know what is happening in the body of some other human beings. So, but I feel that even before Krishnaji was born, there were extraordinary people who lived like Buddha. Or when I was reading Astavakra, I said, oh, it's so marvelous, Astavakra, just like Krishnamurti. And all these mystics, they had experienced that awakening of energy, the energy which goes in the brain and it begins to transform the brain. So there have been extraordinary people who had felt tremendous energy within their body. And so, in that way, Krishnamurti may not have met such a person in whom there was such clarity, energy, because such people, they don't need to go to anybody. So only people who wanted to learn something from Krishnaji and wanted to understand what Krishnamurti was saying, such people went to Krishnamurti. So Krishnamurti cannot know, and even I believe or I feel that people, some of them who listened to Krishnamurti, they understood very quickly what he was saying, and then they had no need to go again and again to discuss with him. So, about the presence of Krishnamurti, apart from his words and teachings, there was something in the person, and it was not, I felt such presence not when he was giving talks and having dialogues. Those are all verbal things to me, but sometimes during a music program or sometimes walking in nature, I felt that there was something extraordinary in that person, and it was non-verbal. And people who are sensitive, they can catch. There is some kind of resonance happens between two human beings when they are vibrating at the same frequency. And that is what he really wanted, that people look at him without images and listen to him without knowledge, without images that here is a great person. So, yes, extraordinary human being, I would say, but in many ways, if we have read the biographies written by some people, he was ordinary like other human beings, and there were some contradictions in his life too. But something was coming and going in his life, and he has described in the notebook of Krishnamurti that something was coming, this otherness or blessings or presence. So I would say that he was a great human being. The greatest human being I came across in my life. But after reading Thich Nhat Hanh's biography, I felt that Buddha, Gautam Buddha, was the most intelligent human being who lived on this earth. So, okay, I finish. Thank you very much.
Durga Rani ji, then Shakti, then Hareshwar Singh.
Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope
Please
I'm audible. Yeah.
follow this sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Chaitanya. Yeah. It's very nice listening to you.
Durga,
Yeah.
be seen. Be seen. Chaitanya
See?
won't know you.
Ah,
Appear
is it
on the
so? Is it
screen.
so necessary?
Yeah.
I don't think men don't have vanity, but women have, sir. I'm not looking very presentable.
Hey, come on.
I
Don't
hope
be
you will-
silly.
you will excuse me. Okay. I won't be silly. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I hope I'm not seen now. Yeah. Just a minute. Just
Yeah.
a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah. I hope. Oh, sorry for this. Am I visible now?
You are.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, sir.
yeah, you are visible.
Yeah. Thank you for asking me, to be visible. Yeah, Mr. Chaitanya, I just would like to say Yeah, looking at your passion and your love for the teaching, it feels like you can go on and on and on, and that's what the teaching does. If you have got connected with the man and the teaching in that level, when you're so passionately fallen for it, I think there lies the entire secret. I don't know if I can say that so. Yeah, because the teaching and the love that itself is a self-revelatory. When you have that kind of a passion to begin with, I think K emphasizes so much on, find out where your passion lies, find out where your interest lies. And the amazing thing about Krishnaji is, he didn't leave a single stone unturned just to make humanity to come around where he is. And your heart feels so overwhelmed when you see the efforts. So he never lays down any rules and regulations, and he never lays any parameters. Like who will understand and who won't understand. Everything is so open. It's like vast oceans. It is like the beautiful nature outside, and a human as a human being. And you're right. I think till the time he empowers the human spirit. He says, you need not ask anybody. You be the master of your own life. Let the life, explains it to you. If you are open, life has a tremendous potential to, teach you lessons. The only thing is how interested one is in, how passionately one wants to find out the answers. I think if that is the where, if one is beginning with, Krishnaji is the most extraordinary, the teaching and the person one had come across in their lives. That's what I have to say. Because if you start going with Krishnaji and all, I think I can keep on going on like that, like you have done. Yeah. So, and I feel in down the line, we may, we may feel privileged and at most blessed that, we had come in contact with this teaching. Maybe down the line of maybe a few hundreds, a few decades and centuries, it may get corrupted. Maybe that's all I can say. I haven't met Krishnaji in my life. The books are the only teacher, that the person that they represented to me. And and if you're really finding out the answers, the entire stress is on, the thought structure. He says in tens and scores of ways, he warns us, how man can be trapped in his own, self thought created structure, and how gently he wants to push us into that stream of life. Just face the life the way it is. And at sometimes I have read, don't give color to anybody. Let them find out their own color. That's what I see seems to have apparently told when some teachers were imparting education to the teachers, to the students. So you have to see the right the qualities, the atmosphere, and right circumstances. Maybe that's all need to be provided. Rest, everything needs to find out their own way, their own answers. But provided one has questions, provided one has those, that passion to find out, to keep everything behind. So I think maybe that's the energy, that's the passion he wants to awaken in human spirits. And at one point you said that for 60 years he spoke the same thing, consistency. And the one person who was so much against consistency, he spoke the same thing again and again. And I think you haven't covered that point. I would like to say, down the line, he himself also used to say this 5,000-year-old conditioning, and how difficult it is for us to be out of that. We are so ensnared by the conditioning, 5 million-year-old conditioning. Sometimes he says that. So he knows it is not easy for anybody to be out of that. The only thing we can do is, as maybe a person who got connected with him, a bit of sensibilities, bit of sensitivities. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got connected to the teaching in the first place itself. So the teaching is a mirror, and keep going back to it, and keep asking. And he, at that age also, he kept asking questions, and that is the only way for us to keep asking questions. Is it what? Is it? Am I really there, or am I really understanding? and keep going back to the book. What did K mean by this? Am I that is a secret? I feel keep questioning yourself. I think that kind of a passion he wants, to be there in a human being. Not questioning others is very easy thing. We can question others. That is the most easiest thing we can do. But questioning ourselves, our intentions, our motives, where are we in all this? This magnanimous teaching we had come across in our lives, but where are we as human beings in this? Are we little bit? Have we started doing the baby steps at all? Or we are still where we had been all these 5,000-year-old and all? So these questions, I feel, open, being open to everything, having a learning mind, and questioning oneself, not others. Questioning others is the easiest thing to do. And Krishna ji has laid out everything through his life and through his books, and that's the only way we can keep doing it. That's all I want to contribute, and it's wonderful listening to you and about Krishna ji. Thank you so much.
Satyaji,
Yes,
please
sir. Please.
unmute and say.
Yes. You see, when I read this topic, does K teach what no other teacher does? In fact, 2 points came to my mind. One is that because I have not studied Buddhism. My voice is reaching, sir?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
reaching.
Yeah. I have not read much about Buddhism, but I have read the pre-Buddhist literature. And 2 things which I don't find there, they may be there. You see, I have not seen them. One is that Krishnamurti's emphasis of watching the outside world also. You see whole commentaries on living, and sometimes there is a dialogue going on, and he says, "Do you look at that flower?" That not to negate the outer, and that is something which usually is very difficult to find in the pre-Buddhist traditional literature. Second thing which I found very unique is that you see, sorry to talk about myself a little, because you see people like me who are not ready to believe in hereafter or mysticism or any type of belief in God or whatsoever it is. Even people like this type of people are also can get connected with Krishnamurti, because awareness, the sting of unawareness is same as the person who has faith and who doesn't have faith. So that is another thing which I found unique, because nowhere else, if you go and you say, "Sir, I don't believe in anything," that's not in my agenda. I want to understand this life. So Krishnamurti can go along with these people also. His teaching is relevant to them. And the only one thing I would like to say, Chaitanya ji, in defense of Krishna, though I am not, you see, his devotee, in Gita, he also says at the end of the, almost at the end, 18th chapter, he says that I have told you something. Now, think about it. He uses the word vimarsh. Etat vimrish asheshena. Completely think about it, and then yathechasi tatha kuru. Do as you wish to do. So there has been pointers in traditional literature also, and there has been opposite pointers also. So it's very important not to think that everything is black and white. So there are gray shades also. Thank you very much.
Harish ji, please unmute and say. Harish ji, please.
Okay, namaskar to everyone. Okay, we have heard this Krishnaji's historical statement. Truth is a pathless land. We often come across. We never tire of quoting it. And I'm not saying that this is not relevant. This is very relevant. But I invite my friends from Krishnamurti's circle to look at it from a different perspective, at least today, and what their discoveries is entirely their discovery. Whether they agree with me or not, it doesn't really matter. Now, truth is a pathless land. There is no path going to it. Now, you take another statement. Freedom is at the very beginning, not just at the end. When you say freedom should be there at the very beginning, otherwise the exploration, the discovery, the journey will not be free. It will have all kinds of bondage or pitfalls. So it will not lead there. So it's a condition that there should be freedom at the very beginning. Is the denial of the statement truth is a pathless land. Now, just imagine, just think, you can, if there is a path, you can put obstacles. Try to understand it. If truth is a pathless land, no path, then there can be no obstacles. You can put your head at your guru's holy or unholy feet every day. You can, recite mantras. You can do arti and rituals, and yet it may not, hinder you from discovering anything, from reaching there. Why? Because truth is a pathless land. So it's a paradox. If truth is a pathless land, then there can be no hindrance to it. No matter how much ritualistic you are, no matter how much authority of the holy book or of the holy or unholy person you believe in, nothing can prevent you from that. So, take the example of Krishnaji. Mary Layton's very first volume says he was subjected to matriculation exam not once, not twice, but thrice. Do you think that it was a pleasure for a man like Krishnamurti to sit matriculation exam 3 times? Certainly not. It was a torture. If you look at all his correspondence with Annie Besant, you would find that he used to take great pains to convince Annie Besant, my dearest Amma, I love you, and all that. So Krishnamurti passed through his share of bondage. So it is not that Krishnamurti started with freedom and Krishnamurti ended with freedom. No, probably we all have our share of bondage. We all have, probably, please mind my word, probably we all have our share of slavery. But yes, then what is it I want to say? I don't know. Like Krishnamurti was probably a biological freak. This very thing may be a freak thing. You call it enlightenment or whatever. I met a Sufi master, and he told me, Harish, God is the blindest person. I said, how can it be? He said, yes. When he gives, he doesn't see who he's giving to. Just like the goddess of justice in a court, the goddess of justice is blindfolded. You see, doesn't see anyone. So it's kind of freak thing. But yes, as a layman, I would only see, I can only say, some sort of fire or a spark should be there, what Krishnamurti calls passion. Then it doesn't really matter if you are following your guru in letter and spirit or no, you are not following. You may not follow, you may not do anything, you can just read the teachings and nothing will happen. Because living the teachings is convenient. I don't have to bow to anyone. I don't have to do any ritual. I don't have to sit in meditation, silence, morning and evening. I don't have to do anything. So that's a very convenient thing. So truth is a pathless land. Okay. And it may be a contradiction, this very statement may be a paradox. If truth is truly a pathless land, then there can be no obstacles to the discovery of truth whatsoever. Thank you very much.
Chaitanya sir,
must
do
let,
you want to answer it? Chaitanya
Yeah,
sir,
yes.
do you want to answer it?
I think so. Chaitanya must answer this. Respond to this Hareshwar's contribution.
Please respond to Harish ji. Chaitanya sir, am I audible to you?
Is.
Yeah. Chaitanya sir, am I audible to you?
I'm just asking what was the question. I didn't get the question.
Yeah, got it. Harish ji, please ask a specific question.
He made an observation. I listened to him.
No, sir,
but
he made a simple observation.
Yeah.
Truth is
Good
not a
enough.
pathless land. Because
Yeah.
truth is not a pathless land. What he says. There
Yeah.
cannot be no obstacle.
No, yeah, I
If it
listened
is
to
a
what he
pathless
said.
land,
No,
Yeah, Chaitanya ji, namaskar. First of
Namaskar,
all,
Hareshwar ji.
I must say, as a humble little teacher of English, one phrase comes to my mind. Though I appeared a little late, but I heard your entire presentation. And I can only say that in English, there is a phrase, there is a word inspired. It was a kind of inspired speech that you made. And it made my, tormented soul tranquil, to be totally honest. There's no doubt about it. But yes, that doesn't prevent me from being outspoken. You cannot say, on the one hand, that truth is a pathless land, and you cannot say that don't follow a guru, don't practice any meditation. You cannot say that. If truth is a pathless land, then let there be no conditions. Absolutely no. You see, somebody may say, I don't give certificate to Maharshi Raman that he was truly a Maharshi. You may not, but some people think that he was one of the greatest masters India has produced. At the age of 15, he goes through death. He was a simple Tamil Brahmin boy who was caned.
sir, please be specific.
Yeah.
Harish ji, please
Yes.
be specific.
So
Time is over.
yeah.
So
brief,
please
very brief.
don't divert it.
So he
Please
was,
ask a specific question.
yeah, he was in bondage. He went through the bondage of mathematics exercise he could not do, and yet that truth itself knocked his door. Don't put any condition. That freedom should be at the beginning, but that is my humble submission. That's it. My humble submission.
I just said that I listened to your observation, but I didn't see that there was a question that I need to respond to. And in addition to that, I saw that we are almost, it's almost 12:35 and 2 more people are raising their hands. They want to ask questions. So thanks, Hareshwar ji, for making your observation. Thanks. That's all I want to say at this stage.
Thank you. Thank you. May I ask Pradeep ji, please be specific. Pradeep ji. Pradeep Verma ji, please.
I know. Is it? I think it is audible.
Be specific and
Yes.
be short, please.
Yes, audible.
Already sword of Damocles is there, right? Whistle is on. So, thank you, Chaitanya ji. You have picked all the mysterious flowers from the garden JK and presented a bouquet to us, probably making it more mysterious. You see, the most glaring difference I see in JK's teachings and others is he talked about whole. He was not happy anything less than whole. He talked about whole and instant, the timeless moment. That is one thing. Please tell us something more about it. Then another question which I asked in last lecture also, how an insight is communicated afterwards. I know that it comes out of blue insight when you are already passionately dealing with some issue. Something comes to your mind, and that makes you understand something. So how this insight, an insight is communicated afterwards, not as words and thought. Then some people say non-verbal communication or say communion, then the two persons should be there at least in close vicinity to have that non-verbal communication or communion. So this is another important question in my mind, that how an insight is communicated. Please, a few words from you. Thank you.
Chaitanya sir, please reply in short because time is over.
Okay.
Please reply in short.
Verma ji, namaskar. All I want to
Namaskar.
say, since I don't have an insight, I can only repeat what Krishnaji said about insight. And how he communicated his insight is known to all of us. He kept talking. And we also know that for somebody like Khalil Gibran, when Krishnaji enters, he says, I knew the Lord of Love had entered the room. So I think it also depends on the receptivity of who is being communicated with. For him, the very presence implied that the Lord of Love was there. For me, I'm dull-headed. I can go on listening to what he's saying, and the thing will never touch me. So I think it is more, it depends more on my receptivity than the effort that that person having insight is making. That's all, Vermaji. I can't say anything more now because Sushilji is constantly ringing the bell, you know.
Yes, for whom the bell tolls.
It calls for thee.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thanks all.
Thank you, everybody.